Sorry about that. Hey everybody, I am Tommy and you are on the lifeboat. What's happening? Let me fix my phone here, people. Sorry about this. You know, I was running just a little bit late there. Wow, lovely. So, wanted to get this thing started. People, I'll tell you what, I talked about this last night a little bit, but now I've had an opportunity to read the entire thing. And this is, I don't have any idea what this is. And I'm not sure that anyone else does. I think it's kind of fascinating that we're not seeing this story on really big networks. Because Derek Lee Cardello Smith, what I talked about last night, I've now had an opportunity to read. And the affidavits that this man has. Now, you understand the concept of an affidavit, right? An affidavit is when somebody says, I'm swearing that everything I put down on this piece of paper right here is truthful and factual. On top of that, I will more than happily show up in a civil court. I will show up in a criminal court. Anything that you want me to show up and attest to what I just put in writing, I will show up and do, right? Cardello Smith filed a lawsuit of $100 million and a judge gave him a summary judgment for $100 million against Sean Combs 7 months ago. And now if you look up Derek Lee Cardello Smith, you're going to get that story. You're not going to get the story that he just filed. And I want to know why. When you hear about this, I think you're going to want to know why. Because in this story are some people that have come forward and said, Derek Lee Cardello Smith isn't a rapist. He didn't kidnap me. I was paid to say that he kidnapped me and that he raped me. The other victim said, he didn't touch me either. I got paid to help put this guy away. Now, these people said that they were working in conjunction with people from the police department. Now, here's where it gets nut job. People from the police department have sworn affidavits saying that they did it, that they framed Cardello Smith and sent him to prison for rape and for kidnapping because they didn't want Sean Combs to get in trouble for raping Cardello Smith, which he did in 97. Throughout these pages are the craziest things you've ever read in your entire life. There are the list of judges by name. This judge was paid $23,000 to do this. This judge was paid $5,000 to do this. This judge was paid $30,000 to do this. One of those judges was paid to summarily get rid of every single appeal that Derek Lee Cardello Smith will ever file. This is one of the most disgusting things. If this is fake, this guy is the greatest con man that ever lived. He has cops. He has a prosecuting attorney that has signed a woman by the name of Suzette Samuels. You can look up the name Suzette Samuels, by the way. She's a prosecutor in Michigan. She's a prosecutor in Michigan that worked on the Cardello case. And this woman, allegedly, has signed an affidavit saying this whole thing's a setup. And everybody is in on it. She says that prior to 1997, a hell of a lot of people invested in Bad Boy. A bunch of people. We've heard rumors in the past about how Anthony Wolf Jones had lent Diddy a lot of money and thought that he probably owned a good-sized chunk of Bad Boy. Now, something mysteriously happened, right? And he no longer makes it. He gets killed, whatever. And Gene Deal has talked about, and other people have talked about whether or not, Wolf's mom got taken care of and how Diddy did Wolf's mom dirty and all this stuff. But while all of this is going on, allegedly, with sworn affidavits, by the way, there was this prosecutor by the name of Kim Worthy. It also says in the same affidavit that at one point Kim Worthy was a judge. But Kim Worthy, working with Suzette Samuels and some cops, got a couple of witnesses to swear that this man essayed them. And there was apparently a witness that could probably keep Cardello Smith from ending up in prison. But 2 days before his trial, this man committed suicide. Except in one of the affidavits, right, one of these people says that really wasn't a suicide. We had that guy killed. And this is the name of the Vincent Smothers is the name of the hitman that we used. Allegedly. That's what they're saying in this in these affidavits, which, by the way, you have to have a notary notarize these. If this is fake, this is the greatest fake in history. And if it's real, I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 judges. Maybe I'm missing one. Either 6 or 7 judges allegedly that have been paid off by Sean Combs just in the Michigan Flint area. This is insane. They say that 128 black men they did this to. Remember when Jaguar Wright said she was in the back of a courtroom going like this? And I said, that's the craziest stuff I've ever heard in my life. It doesn't sound nearly as crazy right now, does it? Sworn affidavits by prosecutors and judges and cops and investigators and witnesses, and they're all saying the same thing. Cardello Smith ain't a rapist. He's just been doing time as one. They convicted this man because Sean Combs spent a ton of money to make sure he got convicted. That's what these affidavits say. You know what else they say? They say that a couple of police officers from Michigan got together with a couple of police officers from Los Angeles to carry out hits in LA on Suge Knight and Tupac. No joke. This is in there too. This is the craziest filing you've ever seen in your life. The current mayor, by the way, somehow is involved in this. Because at one time, I guess the mayor was not I believe his name is, where the hell did I have him written down? The guy was a judge at one point, apparently. Now he is a mayor, but everybody is wrapped up in this case. This is the greatest conspiracy ever. I mean, so many judges. And when you read this thing, you've got a person saying, I made the payments. And this isn't some hack who's in a cell next to Cardello Smith that he was able to talk into doing this. This is someone that still currently works in the prosecutor's office. Are you catching this? How do you get somebody who's working in the prosecutor's office to hang themselves? That's the question for your smell test. How in God's name do you get a prosecutor, right, to hang themselves? Because this Suzette Samuels woman, I don't know what she thinks that coming forward and being a stand-up cat right now is going to do. But if you helped put 128 people in prison that weren't supposed to be there, you're going to do some time. You're going to do some serious time. Now, maybe Suzette and is getting ready to try to cut the best deal possible. Maybe, because I'm thinking about this, man. I've been thinking about this all freaking day. Why? Why did these people jump in and say, you know what, man, now's the time. Let's help this guy Cardello Smith get out of prison. Now, there will be cynics who are going to say, well, maybe it's, maybe it was just a con job. Maybe Cardello Smith somehow got word to these people and said, you realize what we can take? See, in one of these filings, Cardello Smith basically says that he may own half of Bad Boy. I'm telling you, folks, this is the craziest crap you've ever read. And the problem with it is you keep having people sign affidavits that say, I was there. I did this. These aren't made up names. These are people you can look up. These are big dogs. The two women who are the witnesses that put Cardello Smith away have signed recants They've signed statements saying we got paid, we were afraid for our lives. You're hearing that a lot. There's a lot of people in this thing that are saying, I did what I did because I was scared for my life. Oh, and I got paid a lot of money. A judge gets $5,000 to sign to basically to bind the guy over. You understand that when you show up, you just can't start arresting people willy-nilly. You got to go in front of a judge and you got to get an arrest warrant. Well, they show up with an arrest warrant that probably doesn't really pass muster. But see, Cardella Smith's got to go away. If all of this crap is true, right? Then Cardella Smith's got to go away. He is the fly in the ointment. Whatever it takes, right? They got to get rid of this dude. Now, apparently they tried to kill him. They hired the same Vincent Smothers guy, but the attempt on his life didn't work. Allegedly, when the attempt was made on his life, he killed somebody. And also allegedly, to get rid of that, they may have just gotten rid of all murders over the course of a couple of year period of time, so that it wouldn't look like they were picking his out. They may have just like cleared out a couple of years of files. You got any idea how jacked this is? If this is true, do you have any idea how jacked up this is? Okay, so 128 people got framed. What about all of the other people? Because if you're willing to take a payout from Sean Combs to put 128 innocent men behind bars, all black men, by the way, all black men, Mr. I stand up for the black race and all of that crap, allegedly now, has worked with prosecutors to put 128 investors behind bars. Can you imagine the nightmare? You get in there and you go, they got no evidence on me. This is stupid. My attorney's going to get this knocked out. Problem is, your 2255 or 2233 or whatever they call it, that motion you're about to file is going to a judge that already got $30,000. And I promise you, whatever goes across his or her desk, no love. And by the way, they are his and hers. When they started listing out judge names, they allege Willie Lipscomb. I believe he got $5,000. Judge Daniel P. Ryan, allegedly. Allegedly, Thomas Cameron. Allegedly, Bridget May Hathaway. She got $23,000, and she was getting the last of her money a couple of weeks ago. I mean, it's almost that close when you read the affidavit. She's been on the take this whole time. You can look her up, by the way. There's a nice little video of her. I don't know why people would swear out an affidavit that's going to screw up the rest of their life. I don't care what kind of deal any of these people cut. The cop that got paid to put people in prison for Sean Combs, trust me, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. You can't steal years from 128 men. People are going to pay for this. If these, God help us, man. The guy that was going to testify, his name was Cobb, I believe. He was the guy that was supposed to testify for Cardella Smith. Probably said something along the lines of he was with me that night, right? Or some kind of a concrete alibi that puts him somewhere where he couldn't have been kidnapping and raping these two women. That person didn't make it to trial. They committed suicide, like Epstein committed suicide. But in the sworn affidavit, they said, yeah, that wasn't a suicide. We sent old Vinnie Smothers to do that job. And Vinnie Smothers, of course, is a guy with a very long criminal record who wanted a little bit of a break. So the prosecutor's office said, hey, we need a little help. Maybe we keep you out, right? Maybe we do something so that you're not going to do time for a lot of the stuff that you've already done. God only knows. Honestly, those details aren't in this. I'll tell you what's in it. A lot of names. A crap ton of names of people that are still wildly active. These aren't people that retired a long time ago that might have an axe to grind or whatever. These are people that currently are getting paychecks. This is crazy. This is the craziest crap I ever read in my life. And if the affidavits are true, then cops may have had a hand in trying to take out Suge Knight and Tupac Shakur, which would certainly make a lot of sense in terms of the fact that they have not been able to investigate their way out of a paper bag when it comes to solving that. Doesn't seem to be making a whole lot of headway, right? Well, if the hitmen were paid by Diddy and the hitmen worked for the Los Angeles and the Michigan police departments, well, yeah, we're probably going to be looking at an unsolved crime. Now, again, I've been thinking about this all day. And I figure the way I look at it, they got to be thinking to themselves, one of these motions. See, Cardelo Smith is smart. People may not think this cat's smart, this cat's smart. And I've said before, he writes a damn good motion. It's like he's not, number one, he's not stupid. He spent a lot of time looking into all this stuff or whatever. But this is a dude who jumped the curb by getting that BS $100 million default judgment against Sean Combs. I did a story on it. We came here and said the judge just gave a default judgment of $100 million to a convicted rapist named, Derek Lee Cardelo Smith. And we did a story on it. But it made his name recognizable, right? It kind of jumped their little pond that they're controlling. Because if you're controlling the judge, well, all of a sudden you got people that get really into researching the ever-loving crap out of anything that they can. And they start grabbing a computer and looking into this whole Derek Lee Cardelo Smith thing. And you start looking at some of the stuff that the guy's filed. Now, there are lawyers poring over all of this stuff right now. And they're going to be asking questions like, why did this motion, you filed an appeal. And in that appeal, allegedly, you have affidavits from the women who claimed that you raped them, right? And those women said, we made it up, we got paid, it was a lie. You'd think that might be enough to open a case up, wouldn't you? Right? That's new evidence. You would think that would be enough to open up the case. If the person who is the alleged victim comes forward to say, I was paid, well, that's probably a decent reason. But no, see, according to the affidavit, that judge was already paid off. And I think that maybe Suzette Samuels started to see the writing on the wall. Somebody's going to investigate this. Somebody's going to figure out that this Cardelo Smith thing is a hoax. Somebody's going to figure out that this cat shouldn't be in prison. And maybe they were terrified when Diddy was on the street, right? Because they all worked for him, apparently. Everybody was on the payroll. He owned Michigan. If these affidavits are true, he had Michigan on lock. And you want to talk about a crooked group of people. Now, one of a couple of things is happening here, folks. Suzette Samuels, perhaps she's pathological. I don't know, right? Maybe some of these officers, maybe the people that are signing these affidavits. But I have a feeling instead, these are people that realize there's no chance on God's green earth that this Diddy trial comes and goes without everybody finding out what the hell was going on in Michigan. 128 innocent men, innocent black men. I don't know, man. It's so freaking hard to wrap your brain around. Honest to God, do me a favor, put a 2 in the chat if your flabber is gasted, right? If you are literally beyond this, I've never been this blown away by anything that I've ever read that had anything to do with the criminal justice system. I mean, this isn't an inmate telling some incredible, crazy story that just sounds way too hard to believe. These are people that work, right? The cases that put him away. These are the people that said, I was the cop on this, and I faked it all. I got paid to do it. I worked in the prosecutor's office, and on the orders of, Suzette Samuels says that on the orders of Kim Worthy, she did these things. See, she's looks to me like Suzette might want to cut a deal. Here's my question, man. How about Jesse? Where's Jesse from Law and Crime Network? How the hell are we not talking about this? This scares me. Honest to God. When a story that's this big isn't getting talked about by the people that ought to be talking about it, that's scary to me. Who's got that kind of control? Who can stop this from getting talked about? Because I'll tell you what, this is the greatest story ever. Are you kidding me? You got a prosecutor saying, I paid the judges personally, right? You got cops saying, I got paid by Sean Combs, right? To make sure that Cardelo Smith went to prison because he had accused Diddy of raping him. Like nothing is, it's all laid out. This person even did a 1, 2, 3, 4. Honestly, let me give you the 10 points kind of a thing. And the first one was, I framed this man. I did it at the behest of Diddy. This is wild, wild stuff. I mean, we know the guy's a freak. And there's been so much talk about the freak-offs and all of that. How smart does Subramanian look now for not letting this guy out on bail? If these affidavits are true, what do you think Diddy would have done if he had gotten out on bail? Huh? Think he would have tried to buy Subramanian? Maybe they already have tried to buy Subramanian. Who knows? When you start hearing crap like that, $5,000? You got any idea the pain that causes someone that did time? Are you shitting me? For $5,000? You could have bought a judge for $5,000? My attorney costs 4 times that. Boy, I put the money in the wrong spot, didn't I? Holy hell. Now, some of these guys held out for more money. When you read the case, there's some big payouts, right? Not everybody was getting $5,000. Some people were getting 30. Some people were getting paid over long periods of time. And I would imagine that we don't have a clue. What we know is that these people who swore an affidavit, right? Put your hand in the air. Swear that what I'm telling you right now is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Have said, here's the names of the judges we paid off, and here's why we paid them off. God help us. You know what this is going to do to Michigan if this is real? How about forget the 128 guys, right? Because we will assume that we're probably going to be able to figure out what their names are and do something for these people, yeah? But what about all the other people? How do we know there isn't another Sean Combs? How do we know there's not somebody else paying off people to get this guy locked up or to get that woman locked up or to get this business shut down or to do whatever? Because if judges don't have a problem saying, oh, this rando black guy, let's just send him to prison for the next 27 years. And not to prison, but to prison as a rapist. He's going into prison with some rugged paperwork. That's a tough way to do time, peeps. And you know what? I'm sorry, man, but boy, I'm guilty. I'm guilty as hell. I read the paperwork and I'm like, man, when the $100 million lawsuit came out, and we were talking about it 7 months ago, we say, yeah, well, everybody would be really happy if Diddy lost the $100 million. This guy, Derek Lee Cardelo Smith, he's a scumbag, right? He's a rapist. He's a kidnapper. He's got like 6 or 7 different sexual assault crimes. Every one of them is BS. Cops swearing out affidavits. Nothing that man is in prison for should he be in prison for. In fact, he's in prison not for rape. He's in prison for reporting a rape. That's what he's in prison for. I don't know. Maybe somebody, ABC, NBC, CNN. I looked. Nobody's touching this. There is nobody touching this. You know, I can understand wanting to maybe, not be the first person to run out and go, holy crap. But if you read this, I promise you, if you read this, you're going to go, holy crap. There's never been a movie script that's crazier than what these people are alleging right now. Honestly, this is a Hollywood script. This guy worked as a bartender, allegedly, for Diddy. Got to be very close with the cat. And then one night, according to his lawsuit, in 1997, he was drinking Jim Beam. Diddy gave him a drink, told him that drink had a little something in it. You know, kind of gave him a heads up. You know, that one's going to really get you wasted or whatever. As it turns out, when he woke up in the morning, Diddy was there with a woman, and mid-coitus, I believe, is what was going on. And he mentioned to Cardelo Smith while he was doing it that he had just finished doing the same thing to him. At which point Cardelo Smith called the police. This is what is alleged, by the way, right? Who knows? I wasn't there. But this is what is alleged. And the police that signed the affidavit said that right around that time is when Sean Combs showed up. He was working directly with Kim Worthy. in the prosecutor's office. Diddy was paying Kim Worthy to take care of judges, cops, to sort of be, it looks like she was kind of the mastermind. At least that's how it reads on paper. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just my interpretation. But it really looks like she was taking the cash from Diddy. And then she was delegating this stuff. So Suzette Samuels, who she delegated to because she says in her affidavit, I was told to do what I did by the prosecutor, Kim Worthy. Later on, they also mentioned that she was a judge at one point. And obviously, for sale. How many cases are they going to have to look at? How many people are doing time for something that they didn't do? How many people are locked up for crap that they didn't do because they invested in the wrong company, or because this guy hates you? He doesn't like how you make your beats. He doesn't like how you write your lyrics. But of that huge number of people that they incarcerated for no apparent reason, it looks as if the reason was these people all invested in Bad Boy. So instead of paying them, Diddy just paid to have them locked up. It's a lot cheaper, I guess, to have your enemies incarcerated than it would be to just pay off whatever you agreed to in the beginning of the negotiations. Now, if I owned Law and Crime Network, I would imagine that I would take my best paralegals, a couple of attorneys or whoever they got sitting around to pour over this. But I'm a registered hack, and I could read it in about 2.5 hours. So it makes you wonder why this story isn't getting out. Are you telling me that they're not following to see who's filing what? That doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. This is not... What's crazy too is, if you type in Derek Lee Cardello Smith when this video is over, right? You're going to get videos that are 7 months old. You're not going to find the video that's a couple of days old. Maybe they're out there. They're not popping up on my feed. And sure as hell, the big ones, none of them are talking about it. Wouldn't this be a good one for Nancy Grace to go nuts on? Can't you hear her saying, "Are you kidding?" Right? This is a very, very corrupt situation. In fact, where would there have ever been a more corrupt situation? Right? If there's somebody in the chat who may be a little bit older than Tommy Scoville, who can think of a scandal that is on the par of over 125 innocent men incarcerated on the orders of one mob boss. Do you remember when we did shows and I said that some of his bodyguards used to like to brag that you could go into police precincts and see a picture of Sean Combs' face on the walls next to like the captain and the lieutenant and all the officers and like the gentrified cop pictures. Up there would be a picture of Puffy. We talked about this months ago. It's insane. This is absolutely insane. Nothing that has happened in this case rises anywhere close. I'm sorry. I'm not taking anything away from the victims of Sean Combs. At all. I promise you I'm not. But we're talking about bodies. We're talking about people that got bumped off on this dude's authorities and that cops were being used to help do it. Holy crap. How about the lawsuits? How about having to reopen every single case that went through that prosecutor's office? Every one of them. You got any idea how many people you convict in 5 or 10 years? Now, you go and read through this, and I swear to you, unless I read it wrong, it said they took 2 years worth of murder cases and made them disappear. What if you appealed that? What if one of those cases was yours? What if you're appealing that? Well, what the hell is going to happen to all of the cases that went through this court system? Do you let these people out? What if you got a sister who was unalived by some guy, and you're going to find out that this dude's rock solid case is going to get tossed out? Why? Well, because they framed Derek Lee Cardello Smith for a kidnapping and a rape that he didn't do. And it seems that half, right, of the judiciary in that part of the world may have been on the take. Right? People with bar cards getting paid off. Prosecutors taking money to let innocent people go away. Judges taking money to sign off on BS arrest warrants. Judges taking money to just throw appeals in the trash. Appeals that have a recant. You understand how powerful this is? The person that accused you of the crime is recanting. They're coming forward and saying, it's a lie. The guy never touched me. I've never even been in the same room as him. That's not good enough. How much did that cost? Just to throw that in the trash. Are you as indignant about this as I am? If this pisses you off, can you put a 3 in the chat for me? Seriously. If this makes you angry, can you toss up a tray for me? How is this okay? And how is it okay that no one's reporting it? Is this not important enough? Huh? And I'll tell you something. You know what the takeaway needs to be on this? Huh? The takeaway on this is we don't know shit. I'm sorry, but we don't. We don't know any of the cases, the stuff that we take for granted. We don't know anything. We assume that when a person pleads no contest, it's because they're guilty. We don't assume that they pled no contest because the prosecutor's office allegedly had your only witness killed and made it look like a suicide. This is terrifying because it means any one of you could be going to prison. They could pick you for whatever reason they decide, and they could trash your life, send you to prison, destroy your reputation, destroy everything in your life. And how do you defend yourself? Well, we have a system in place to make sure that things like this can't happen, right? That's what appellate courts are for. But when you start to go through this, you're going to notice that they paid off judges at appellate levels. They had judges everywhere. There was nowhere they didn't have a judge. So much bigger than freak-offs. And I mean no disrespect to the sexual assault victims of Sean Combs, right? The alleged sexual assault victims of Sean Combs. I'm not taking anything away from those people. But this is a level of corruption that, come on, help me. What's bigger? Where have we ever seen anything like this? Now, there have been some scandals. The Rampart scandal in Los Angeles, California, with the racist cops that were taking hoses to black people to get confessions out of them in the basement. The Ron Furman made famous, right? The racist cop from the OJ trial. Some recordings that he had made when someone was trying to write a book, and there was the Rampart scandal. It was a very big deal, but nothing like this. There's also been, every once in a while, you'll get a case where they find out that somebody that works in a crime lab BS'd their credentials, right? They cheated. Somehow they cheated, and they did something so their credentials are now suspect, and every single case that they have done now has to be brought into question. These things happen. But that's not what this is. This isn't a screw up. Not at all. This is a group of people that let a gangster, right? I mean, think Don Corleone, right? Think John Gotti. For real. How is this not gangsta stuff? They raid his house. He's got a crap load of guns, right? With huge clips, right? 100 rounders and 50 rounders. He's got drum magazines for ARs, 3 of which have obliterated serial numbers. These are heavy guns. They really are. I mean, if you want to put a lot of lead down range, like he had the equipment to do it. That's not something most record guys need to have laying around, is it? And there's a lot of talk about a lot of drug dealing and a lot of stuff. This makes everything that has happened in this trial seem somewhat small in comparison. There are people out there. I watched a panel of them tonight on one of the networks. that was talking about how if consensual people want to get together and if you want to watch your wife get banged by two porn stars that you fly in and a couple of machines that take over when those guys get tired, that's consensual stuff. And if you're going to arrest Sean Combs for this, you should arrest everybody, which is really quite an argument, right? Because I'm sure not everybody flies in porn stars to bang their significant other, right? But I understand the point that they're trying to make. What they're trying to say is, don't mandate my sex, right? And I'm not defending Diddy. I'm just explaining the opposition's, right? Don't kink shame me, right? Just because I like watching my significant other with other men does not make me a freak. Don't kink shame me. This is the defense. This is what Mark Agnifilo is going to come into court and say. That all the people that were at these freak-offs wanted to be there. They were having a great time. And then once the great Diddy got thrown in jail, they were looking at that $1 billion that he had, and every one of these people is just looking for a payday. These were people that loved the freak-offs. They're going to say Cassie Ventura kept those videos on her phone because she liked to look at them. This is going to be their defense, right? What in the name of God is your defense in Michigan if these affidavits come out to be true? Not only are you going away for the rest of your life, you got any idea how many other people have to go away? For real. There better be some justice for Derek Lee Cardello Smith and the 128 other black guys whose only sin was being owed money, allegedly, by Diddy. Holy hell, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. It really is. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. And your first response, if you got anything on the ball, your first response is, this has got to be BS, right? This has got to be BS. This is some kind of a stunt. But then you start to go through the list of names and you start looking these people up and holy hell, these people are real people. And they are really working in these offices. These are the people that handled Cardello Smith's case. And they're saying we framed them. Nobody wants to talk about it? Is this too big a story? Huh? Is this going to start encroaching on some people that we don't want to know about? Why is no one talking about this? Right? I'm a teeny YouTube channel. But we're the big dogs on this one, man. Huh? We're the big dogs. How is this thing not the biggest news story? Am I overreacting? Now, granted, I'm not reading this out loud to you. Number one, it would take me 2 hours. And number two, you would find yourself in a state of disbelief for that entire time. These are the facts that come out in this. As you begin to read it, each line you go, there's no way. Then you get down to the bottom, and there is a notary public's seal put on this, which means that Suzette Samuels, who you can look up, has sworn that this is the truth, that she was on the payroll, that Diddy paid to put 128 guys away, that she's guilty of this. These are people who in their affidavits say, we're guilty. Holy hell, how much are we not hearing about? If this is what they put in here, what deal are they cutting, right? What do you have in your bag of goodies to pull out that you can put all of this crap out for the world to see and not be afraid that you're never going to get out of prison again? Huh? Who can you bring down? What have you got in your bag of tricks that you're not nervous to come out and swear, right, in front of God and everybody else that you're crooked? That you got paid off to steal what will amount to be hundreds of years from innocent men. What kind of nuclear option have you got, right? What kind of bomb have you got that you can drop? Yeah, the lovely Leroy, cops, judges, don't forget prosecutors, right? Don't forget prosecutors. Crap loads of judges. Crap loads of them. If it was one being paid off, you'd be sick to your stomach. But this person doesn't just say this judge got paid off. The person says, I paid that judge. I delivered the money. Yeah, I went into the judge's office. I handed the judge the cash. I paid off the judges. That was one of my jobs. Yeah, throw in the mayor of I think Flint. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. I don't want to smut up the mayor of Flint if that's wrong. I'm not exactly sure the city, but I know Flint is one of the three that got mentioned. But apparently, Cardella Smith has, kidnapping is a federal offense. It's not something you usually do state time for, but they had filmed him in court. Right? That doesn't happen in the feds. So he may be doing fed time right now, and he may be getting out on day trips to go to state court, right? Or they've got him in a multi-purpose room that has a camera in it, right? And he's appearing in front of state judges. I'm not exactly sure what's going on with that, and it's something that's going to require an awful lot more research. Because right now, what we really have is a very long list of very, very important names. And this list was not compiled by a convict. This list was compiled by a cop and a prosecuting attorney who admit in their own affidavits they're dirty. Wow. 128 guys. So that's 128 different court cases. All the same prosecutor, all the same judge, right? Think of the questions you got to start asking. How many defense attorneys? Are these public defenders? Probably not. If these are guys that were willing to invest in Bad Boy, they probably had some cash, right? So we're talking about a massive undertaking to do frame jobs on 128 people. God help us. Do you know how many people would have to be involved in this? At least tangentially, right? At least to have some awareness that this crap was going on. Affidavits, people, right? Affidavits. I sat in the back of a room and I would put my thumb up to the judge as to whether or not that person would go to prison or whether or not that person would go home, right? And I was the first person that I think to say, yeah, I can't get behind that. I can't wrap my brain around it. And I'm sorry, no disrespect to, but I said at the time, but you stick around long enough and the most outrageous stuff that woman says starts to come back into focus. And you would think to yourself, there's no way in hell there's a judge that would arbitrarily, right? Just on whim go, yeah, that person's going to prison. I don't care if they're guilty or not. It's hard to wrap your head around somebody that started out, right? People usually go into law, right? Not necessarily because they want to get rich, but very often it's because it's the love of the law. I was married to an attorney, and there was something very near and dear for these people to do what they did. The sellout. How long have they been doing it? You telling me Diddy was the first person that they paid off? How long has Michigan been screwing people? I did a show a while back. It said something about notaries do not confirm truth of a document. They confirm that the person that's signing that document is Suzette Samuels, and that's what I meant. Suzette Samuels swears that everything in that affidavit is true. The notary says, yeah, that's really Suzette Samuels, because that to me would be, all right, maybe they got somebody other than Suzette Samuels to go in there and claim that she was, right? You got to start thinking of every stupid, crazy kind of theory that you can come up with. But there's a lot of, this isn't a one shot. If there was one person who came forward and said, yeah, I helped frame this guy, and nobody else, you start thinking to yourself, well, maybe this person's in a relationship with him, right? Maybe they know each other. Maybe they got a cousin that, set this, that. But when you start getting multiple people coming forward, the two witnesses, right? A couple of different cops, a couple of different prosecutors, and one who says, I'll tell you everybody I paid off. That was my job. One of my jobs is paying off the cops. You want to hear, the judges, you want to hear who I paid off? I'll tell you. Holy shite. This is, anybody want to help me? Can you think of a bigger scandal in this country ever? Honestly, from a legal standpoint. When have we had maybe 5 or 6 corrupt judges being paid off by one person that they could document. Maybe in the old days of the mob, I don't know. I really don't. I can't think of anything. And I'll be honest, I'm usually pretty good with the memory kind of stuff. There's nothing out there that I can think of that this doesn't make look pale in comparison. This is the most foul and disgusting abuse of power that, I mean, I'm a half a century old. I've never seen anything like this. I haven't. You know, this is a woman in the prosecutor's office who I guess just got scared enough and realizes that, you know what? One of these house moms, one of these internet sleuth moms is going to start diving through these Cardello appeals. And they're going to go, the judge threw out an appeal that had a witness recanting her statement. He doesn't even, the judge, he or she doesn't even want to hear this. You don't even want to see the person come into court. You don't want to say to that witness, why did you make the story up? I think they realized that in 2025, soccer moms are going to take them out. For real. This is going to be private investigators. It's going to be soccer moms. It's going to be those people that sit around, law nerds, people that are into it to beat hell. Cardello Smith made the news. His lawsuit was kind of wild. We talked about him for almost a week. Then they had to go down there and magically, right? He got a default judgment. Magically, they walked in, poof, default judgment's gone. Now thrown out with prejudice. Why? Well, they got paid off, right? They got paid off. According to the affidavit, every time they hit a bump in the road, paid off that judge. Oh, he's going to be doing appeals? Pay off the appellate judge. Oh, it's going to go to the Third Circuit? Pay off the Third Circuit. How deep is it? Is it only Michigan? As I was saying before I brain farted here a minute ago, I did a show a while back, and we talked about the potential for up to 6% of people in prison to be in there for crimes that they didn't commit. And I remember saying at the time that that number sounded so high to me, right? That number just sounded to me to be ridiculous. How's that possible, right? That many juries could get things wrong. That many cops could, no. It's because there are places out there where they're putting people away just because they want to put people away. Last year we did a show too where we showed that cop that they had on film. Guy had a camera on the inside of his car and it filmed a cop throwing a bag of dope in the back seat of his car. And the guy got busted. Turns out the cop had found a lot of dope in a lot of people's cars. How do you fix that? Honestly, how do you make Derek Lee Cardello Smith whole again? For the rest of the time that he's on planet Earth, there's going to be a group of people that never heard the second story that are just going to call him a rapist. That's his lot in life now. Turns out he's a survivor of rape. But all of the people that that were there for the headlines when this guy got convicted, they're probably not going to be there when on page 77 of the same newspaper there's a retraction this big that says, oh yeah, he didn't do it. Sorry about that. It might work out this time for Cardello, right? This one might end up on the front page of Newsweek. I don't know how you hide this. I don't know how you hide this. I mean, seriously. Do you make Suzette go away? Do you make Kim Worthy go away? And I'm not being funny because inside all of these documents, they talked about whacking a lot of people. Right? This was not something they were afraid to do. You need to get rid of somebody, get rid of them. This was the thing. This was the thing. Maybe Suzette thought to herself, you know what? What if Diddy starts tying up loose ends? Maybe I'd rather be alive and in some trouble than the next person that gets convicted and thrown in prison for life for something I didn't do, or I just get Epsteined. Maybe old Suzette got nervous. Maybe a lot of these people got nervous. I'd like to believe, and I know it's not true. I know that what did this was self-preservation. All of the people that helped set this guy up are scared. And that's why they're all coming forward now. And they're all going to try to cut deals. And they're all going to look for a soft place to land because it looks like a lot of people were involved in this. Now, all of this is still alleged. But I start getting really weird feelings when you get people signing affidavits who work in the prosecutor's office, who say, I paid off this judge, and this judge. These are people that are still there. And, by the way, Derek Lee Cardello Smith, I believe, was having problems coming up with the filing fee, which might lead you to believe that, this isn't necessarily, this isn't somebody well backed from the street that's using Cardello Smith as a way to try to, take out Diddy or make a point. Well, if they are, they're certainly not putting any money on dude's books. Right? They're certainly flying under the radar. And I would imagine he doesn't have a lot of friends in there. It's a tough way to do time. Right? As a kidnapper and a rapist. They cannot make this man's life right again. There is nothing that they can do to this man that will be justice. 6% of the federal prison population in 2023 is around 9,500 people who would be in, and that's just the feds. That makes up the smallest part of the prison population too. The federal system is minuscule in comparison to the state systems. In fact, there are more inmates in California, I believe, than there are in the entire federal system. And same with Texas. There are more people incarcerated in Texas than there are in the entire federal system. Rich people pay off judges all the time. Think of the Stanford rapist. Think of Alec Baldwin. Ty, I agree with you. I do believe that this happens more often than it should. But somehow in the back of my mind, I always kind of thought it was one of those things that wasn't rampant. I really did believe that. And you know why? Because I've done so much time with people who were rich as hell. And I thought to myself, $5,000? Again, I paid 4 times that for my lawyer. Maybe 5 times that for my lawyer. We paid a fortune for my attorney to do nothing. It's terrifying to think that might have been able to buy me out 5 different times if I had just known the right judge. It's the most bizarre thing in the world to me, folks, that these affidavits right now exist. The only thing crazier than the things that I read in there is the fact that no one's talking about it. It's filed. It's legit. These people have sworn to this. How is this not being discussed? Huh? How is this not? This isn't important enough, apparently. Huh? Or is there somebody making sure this story doesn't go live? And that to me gets terrifying too. How do you control something like that? Who's got the kind of control that can keep a story like this from breaking? Because I promise you right now, no one's talking about it. You hear me? Nobody. Nobody in the real world. I'm sure there's YouTubers talking about it, right? Because this is what we do. But in the real world, up top, there's nobody talking about this. And the big dogs, right, the huge dogs on YouTube aren't talking about it either. I would encourage you to go and take a look at this, right? Go and look at the filing. It's honest to God in heaven. Every line that you read will floor you more than the previous one. All of these people made declarations and they listed them off, 1 through 10 or 1 through 11, the points. Like, I personally framed, Derek Lee Cardello Smith. I did it, right? I did it on the orders of. Number 2, I did it on the orders of Sean Buffy Combs. Like, this is how this thing is. God help us, folks. This is a scandal that is larger than anything that I think anyone is prepared for. God almighty, the shitstorm this is going to be in Michigan. That state. How many people that went through the process? Every single person that's been convicted since 1997. You're going to have to relook at every one of those cases. Maybe that's why this isn't popping up. Huh? Maybe it's because there is no mechanism in place for what you do when you find out that your entire friggin' system is crooked. What do you do with all of the people in Michigan doing time? Because we know that if, let's see here, what did I say? We got allegedly Willie Lipscomb. We got allegedly Daniel P. Ryan, Thomas Cameron, Bridget Mary Hathaway. Right? All of these people that are allegedly being paid off, how much of the landscape does that cover? And now do you have to question virtually every single conviction that went through the state of Michigan over, say, 20 years? What do? You let those people out? You give them new trials? How? Seriously. You still got all of the new crimes coming in that you got to book appointments for and do all that and get juries, and now you got to go back and redo everything from the last decade? How does that happen? And how could you justify not doing that? Who's to say which inmates got screwed and which ones didn't once you know the system's for sale? And I'll tell you something. This may sound terrible, but it's probably the criminal in me. Live with it. I am a lot more comfortable with the idea that if you gave a judge $10,000, he'd let a guilty man walk, than I am that you could pay somebody $10,000 to put an innocent man away for the rest of his life. That's a way more uncomfortable feeling to me. There's something about the idea that maybe every once in a while some guy that's guilty walks because somebody got a bribe. That's a little easier for me to swallow, right? I believe that they like to say fairly often that our legal system is based on the principle that it is better to let 1,000 guilty men go free than it is to incarcerate one innocent person. Derek Lee Cardello Smith. I don't think this guy's a choir boy, right? I don't think a lot of choir boys hung out with Sean Combs, right? Unless they literally were choir boys. I think that this is a guy that probably had a hand in some dealing, right? One of the parts of this affidavit, he claims that he may own 50% of Bad Boy, which means he would have had to give a lot of money up for that, which would lead you to believe that maybe he was in the game. Maybe he was dealing. It has been suggested in the past that a lot of dealers may have invested, right? They have people who made money in less than traditional means, like Wolf, right? People that were willing to put some money into Diddy because they wanted to own a piece of Bad Boy. God only knows how many people he sold off a chunk of Bad Boy to, because his plan was obviously to get rid of all of them. And according to these affidavits, 128 black men who went away because they had a beef with Diddy. And these people were ready to do whatever they had to do. And they got rich, huh? Because the numbers that they're throwing out just for Derek Lee Cardello Smith, right? That was 150 or so that they cite out between all of the different places, maybe 200 somewhere in there, grand that got spent. What about all the other people? They were getting rich, huh? They were getting rich. Diddy was pumping all kinds of money. How do you get 128? I mean, at 10 grand a pop, that's getting steep. But if you owe them all 60 or 70 grand a pop, or you owe them 25% of your record label, or you owe them 5% of your record label, I would say that Diddy's nothing if not pragmatic, right? He saw it as a good investment to make these people go away. Allegedly, this is the craziest crap I've ever read in my life. I will get a link to it and get it up onto the Lifeboat group page over on Facebook, so that it can link you directly to it, so that you can read the entire case. Roberta, Spanx tea is on the way to him. He will have it tomorrow morning. I'm picking him up for breakfast, so we'll drop it off to him then. You were 15 minutes late, Sammy Sue. Yeah, I'm going to be posting it over on the boat, or maybe I'll have Spanky put a link to it in the job box, because I personally don't know how to do that, but I'm fairly sure that I can get a link put up where you can find it. However, if you just Google this, you ought to be able to chase it down, but you're going to have to be specific, and you're going to have to put down the dates, right? Because if you Google Cardello Smith, nobody wants to touch this story. You're going to find out about the $100 million settlement that got thrown out 7 months ago. That's all you're going to hear. I don't want to talk about this other one, I guess. And I don't know why. I don't know why. But we're going to find out. You know what, Carlos G? Who knows what the future may bring. But for tonight, there will not be any night yard. And I used to have quite a bit of fun with it too. But things have a way of constantly changing, eh? Between now and the next time I see you, do me a favor, people. Do a little harm reduction, would you? Huh? On yourself or on somebody else, right? And maybe try to be a little bit kinder. I promise it pays off in the long run. I am Tommy Scoble. We will see you on the next one. And look into this, people. Ask the questions, right? How come no one's talking about this? It's scary to me. It really is.